Good morning, and welcome to the Growth and Thriving Morning Mindset. I'm your host, Dr. Jerry Sunshine Novak, the biker psychologist. This post was inspired by some of the social media groups to which I belong. So, if you look at the areas in which I work and where I have training, as a psychologist, obviously I'm a mental health professional. I'm also a certified fitness coach and a nutrition coach and a financial coach. And overall, I deal with health, wellness, financial well being, healthy relationships, leadership from my time in the military as an officer, leadership and career trajectory. And so I tend to follow uh, others in each of these arenas. And many of the folks in these arenas also have groups, like a Facebook group, for example, that you can join, right? A fat loss group or a fitness group or a finance group. And I tend to join the groups for the people I follow, interested to see what I can learn. More often than not, I wind up really demoralized by these groups, though. And not because of the people who I follow, but because of the other members in these groups. What tends to happen, for example, in a fat loss group, I'm thinking of one particular that's run by a well known bodybuilder. People are in this fat loss group, presumably to burn body fat and get in better physical condition. And they will post a picture of a meal. My assumption, and I don't know if I'm right, but my assumption is that they're feeling pretty good about the meal they made and maybe they'd like some feedback. And so they'll post their picture and it'll be, some chicken breast or steak or something with some sort of vegetable and some rice and they'll post, hey, here's what I made tonight for dinner, and the chicken is free range, and the rice was organic, whatever. I grew the tomatoes myself, whatever the post is. And then there'll be 15 or 20 comments under the post just shitting all over it. Well, brown rice would have been better than white rice. Oh, well, you shouldn't be eating carbs, or oh, well, this, or oh, well, that. And I end up, as I'm reading these, first of all, not learning anything, right? I don't come out any better informed than I went in. So many of the things that get shared by other group members are just not evidence based and not consistent with the science. It's bro science, or it's, in the finance arena, it's just, unfounded, unsupported advice, or most of the time, not even advice, usually criticism, right? Carbohydrates do not make you fat. It is easy to overeat carbohydrates, a lot of different carbohydrates. So you do want to manage how much you eat, but that's the truth with proteins and fats as well, right? You don't want to overeat anything if you're trying to manage your body fat and or body weight. Financially speaking, people will post about progress they've made in an area and how they, saved $5 by cutting out their whatever, their little indulgence, right? And then people will comment, oh, well, that $5 should be invested in this or in that so it earns this interest. And what I'd like to say to all of these groups and all of these people is, even when the comments are evidence-based, even when they are based on science, we are doing each other a disservice if we allow perfect to be the enemy of better. I know you may have heard the phrase, letting perfect be the enemy of good. And that's true too, right? If your diet's good, then what are we being critical of, right? It's because it's not perfect. I mean, I get it if you're a competitive bodybuilder and you need to go on stage, at the Mr. Universe, and there's some relatively high stakes involved, then yes, being very meticulous about your calorie intake or your macronutrient split, that could matter. That could be important. Or being very meticulous about the particular workout you're doing, or what sort of split, or what the parameters are. If you are, a broker or a trader or something, and that's your profession, then yeah, looking for the best investments, the best trades could be important. But for the general public, right, a good enough diet is good enough. And doing better than you did yesterday, better than you did last week, better than you did last month, better than you did last year, is the definition of growth. And growth is the path to thriving. So if you're, first of all, I'm not even a fan of diets with names. I don't know that your diet should be keto or paleo or I don't know what, right? The zone. Because once you have a name to it, right, now there's rigid parameters. And, some people do okay with rigid parameters. And if that's you and you need those parameters in order to adhere to something, that's fine. But what ends up happening is it becomes sort of at least cliquish, at worst cultish, where people defend their diet over all else. Meanwhile, there are millions and millions of people doing just fine eating in ways that are not consistent with that particular diet. There are millions and millions of people who are making financial progress even though they're not exactly following Dave Ramsey's program or Susan Orman's program or whoever, right? Anybody's. So when we get dogmatic and rigid, we're in the way of helping each other grow, in the way of helping each other thrive, right? If you're the person who took the picture of that dinner you made with the free-range chicken and the homegrown vegetables and the rice, and somebody shits all over it saying that you shouldn't be eating carbs, but last week you were eating hyper-processed foods. You were eating a microwave dinner, a frozen microwave dinner. Well, your homemade food, even with the carbs, is a major improvement from what you were doing last week. Good for you. That's fantastic. That should be celebrated, not just judged and critiqued. If you managed to hang on to $5 today, even though you had the impulse to spend it at the grocery store, the drugstore, the gas station, even though you had the impulse to buy something, and you talked yourself down from it and you hung on to that $5, even if it's not invested in something that earns interest, good for you. That's incredible. If last week you spent your entire paycheck and were living absolutely paycheck to paycheck, and now you're $5 up, awesome. That should be celebrated. Now, is there room to continue to grow? Sure there is. Of course there is. And when you're ready to take those steps, certainly I want to help you take those steps. The other people in your life should be helping you take those steps. If you belong to a group like this on any of the social media, on Instagram or on Facebook or wherever, and people are generally supportive and are cheering you on for your progress and maybe even giving some constructive criticism, then great, that's your tribe. Stay with those people. But if you find yourself demoralized in a group like this, maybe because you're sharing your progress and it's getting dumped on for not being perfect, or even like me, if you haven't shared your progress in these groups, but you're just reading the onslaught, you're just reading the carnage that happens to other people who have the guts to share their progress, and you feel demoralized and you feel like you will never do this perfect and never be good enough, you need to know that the problem isn't with you. It's not with your diet. It's not with your workout habits. It's not with your financial program. It's not with any of that. The problem is with the group. So please make sure that you are surrounding yourselves with people who will stretch you and encourage you. There's good research that demonstrates that the people we spend our time with greatly influence our outcome, both for better and for worse. There's studies done with twins separated at birth, and one twin grows up in an athletic and active and fit family, and the other twin grows up in a more sedentary and obese family. And the twin that grows up in the obese family almost invariably ends up obese. It's not genetics. It's about who we spend our time with. And so if the people you're spending your time with are belittling you and you are ending up feeling overwhelmed or unsure of yourself or demoralized because you're not meeting their perfect standards, which, by the way, I've noticed that most of the people offering these criticisms are not sharing their own financial habits, bank accounts, meals, fitness programs, etc. They're just judging. And so if you're feeling that way and you think you need to improve in order to feel less demoralized, trust me, you will be doing yourself a favor if you find a more supportive cohort. You find yourself a more supportive tribe. You need somebody in your corner, somebody who can help, contact me, reach out to me. If I can't help you directly, I will reach out to my network and find you someone who will. Certainly don't let perfect be the enemy of good, but if you are improving over yesterday, over last week, over last month, don't let perfect be the enemy of better. Consistency trumps all. I promise you. Consistency trumps all. The person who saves $5 a week every week for the next 30 years will far outdo the person who adheres to their perfect investment strategy for 6 months at a time and then falls off for 6 months at a time. The person who does the 60% workout program religiously over the course of decades is going to be more fit and healthier as they get older than the person who does the perfect workout routine for a year and then falls off for 6 months and then jumps back in for a year. It's just the truth. So please, if you're feeling like you're not good enough, you're feeling demoralized, step back. Look at where that information is coming from. And then check yourself. Are you doing better than you did yesterday? Are you doing better than you did last year? Even if it's tiny. Even if you last month you saved $0 and this month you saved $5, that's improvement. Stick with it. Be consistent. Save $5 again next month. Save $5 again the month after that. The month after that, maybe bump it to $7. Then save $7 again. Then bump it to 10, right? In a couple of years, you'll be in pretty good shape. Way better shape than if you allow the naysayers and the energy vampires to demoralize you and get to a point where you don't want to do it at all. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. I'm rooting for you. I know you can do it. Until next time, it's Dr. Jerry Sunshine Novak, the biker psychologist, saying, biker up, keep getting better, and keep growing until you're thriving. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.